Okay, I know it is, well, my time right now. It is almost midnight, but I've have been doing a lot of things, been preparing for next week with all the videos that are going on the grind, and yeah, this will be my last video with my dad's for till pretty much a week from now. So yeah, like the idiot Nordic 97 is. Why is my hair like so weird? I forgot to announce the date that the next book that we'll read is going to be like, the voting's gonna be like over, and it's actually gonna be Friday. This Friday at the end of this week. I don't know the exact date, but it's gonna be ending on Friday, and it's already up by 2 for the Gordie Howe book. So it looks like I'm gonna read a book that's probably like 3 of these combined. So yeah, and if I don't get the book done by then, I'll probably, if I get this book done before the voting's over on Friday, I might just move the vote. I'll either move the voting date over, or we just won't do the story times until like when we're able to do the next one, when the voting's over. So yeah, today we are reading What Is the Stanley Cup, and it's been the past 1, 2, 3 videos that we've been doing on the channel, that we've been doing for the Storytime series. And today we are reading chapters 6, 7, and 8. So let me take a look at the chapters here. So the next one is Tough Times, 1929 to 1941. The original 6, 1942 to 1967. Actually, no. Actually, I think we've already read Tough Times. Actually, we have. So today we will be reading the original 6, 1942 to 1967. More Teams, More Excitement from 1968 to 1979. And Two Dynasties from 1980 to 1990. After that, there's only 2 chapters left. So it looks like we will be finishing this tomorrow. So I hope you guys are ready for that. Chapter 6, the original 6. In early December 1941, the United States entered the war, joining Canada and England. I don't know why I said Finland. More and more players left the NHL for the military. Now, of course, back then, all the players in the army and stuff. Now, this is Sil Apps, former of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Former Toronto Maple Leaf. We will be doing a career video on him. As I said in the video earlier today, or probably when this video uploads yesterday, we are only doing Jonas Hiller and Thomas Vanek. So those will be the career videos. So yeah, last week we did the spin chicklets. So this week it's gonna be 2 retired players. In the 1942-43 season, there were 6 teams left. Canada only had 2 teams: the Canadiens and the Maple Leafs. The United States had 4: the Bruins, Rangers, Red Wings, and Blackhawks. Later, they became the original 6. But back then, fans feared even these teams couldn't last. But in a small league brought more intense matchups, stronger rivalries. People flocked to games. And in Canada especially, hockey proved to be an escape from the war. In 1942, the Maple Leafs faced the Red Wings. They were favored to win, but Detroit took the first 3 games. Easily, the Toronto goalie admitted they're unbeatable. Detroit needed 1 more game to win the cup, and they would be playing at home. So it seemed like a shoo-in. Now, this is just a bunch of fans attending the game. You can see that pretty good. In a last-ditch effort, the Toronto coach changed the lineup. He benched his top scorer and replaced him with substitute player Don Metz. It was a smart move. Toronto managed to tie the score 3-3. Then Metz set up his older brother Nick for the winning goal, and that was it. Toronto won. As soon as the final whistle blew, Detroit coach raced across the rink, angry about calls and penalties, had it out with the ref. Detroit fans joined the protest, tossing papers, peanuts, and even a shoe onto the ice. Detroit coach was suspended for the series. Could the Red Wings win 1 more game without him? Nope. So here we got Don Metz. I never even knew about this guy my whole entire life until I read this book. And then there's players tossing shoes, peanuts, and a bunch of other stuff onto the ice in the Detroit protest. Toronto took the next 3 games, helped along by Don Metz in his Game 5 hat-trick. A hat-trick is when a player scores 3 goals in a game. It's pretty obvious. It is the greatest comeback in Cup final history. While the war raged on, teams filled their rosters with players too old and too young to serve in armed forces. Sometimes they were signed to players who failed their army physicals. That included Maurice the Rocket Richard. You say his last name in French, Richard. Richard had a history of broken bones from playing junior hockey and was rejected for military service. The NHL was worried about Richard getting injured. Was he able to play? Was he strong enough to play professional hockey? Sure enough, in his first season as a Canadian, he broke his ankle and wound up playing just 16 games out of 50. But in his second year, the 1943-44 season, Richard came back with vengeance. He scored goal after goal. Could he keep it up for the playoffs? The semifinal against Toronto would be the test. Now, we got two pictures of Maurice the Rocket Richard. There's one of them. And then there is a picture of him in his hospital bed after he broke his ankle. In the first game, Richard couldn't score. The Canadians lost. The second game started the same. Richard was so closely defended. He didn't take one shot. At the end of the first period, the score was 0-0. But going into the second period, Richard got the puck. He deked, faked out the goalie, and took a quick shot. Just like that, it was 1-0. Seconds later, Richard scored again and again. By the end of the game, he held an NHL playoff record. It reads on the newspaper, Richard 5, Toronto 1. The war ended in September 1945. Pro players were slowly but surely returning to the game. Many thought this spelled the end of Rocket Richard's success. He'd be facing stronger, tougher competition. It didn't matter. In 1952, in the second period of the Game 7 of the semifinals against Boston, Richard was hit in the face by a stick. He fell into the ice unconscious. Blood streamed down his face. By the third period, he was stitched up and back on the rink. He carried the puck from end to end, dodging defenders left and right to blast a goal. Oops, I forgot to show this one picture here of Richard playing the Bruins. Of course, we talked about the Bruins-Canadiens rivalry on the channel before. Called one of the greatest goals ever, it clinched the game and won the series. Richard was the backbone of the Canadiens. He later led the team to 5 straight championships from 1956 to 1960. But in 1952, after beating Boston, the Canadiens lost the cup to the Red Wings, and their offensive star, Gordie Howe, nicknamed Mr. Hockey. Howe resembled Richard, and he had a larger-than-life player. The Wings won championship after championship, helped by Howe's famous scoring line, the production line. Richard and Howe were legends, but it was the Toronto Maple Leafs who won 4 cups in 6 years, and they had the final win in the original 6 era. The NHL was about to expand. They haven't won since. F in the chat. Here's Gordie Howe with the Red Wings right there. And then Maple Leafs captain George Armstrong on the left, and Harold Borer, one of the team's owners, arrived at the Stanley Cup during the championship celebration in 1967. So there is, I'm going to try to get it as good as quality as I can. There you go. And that is it for chapter number 6. But before we get into chapter number 7, we have right-wing rivals. A little section here about Maurice Richard and Gordie Howe. We go into a little bit of backstories for both players, and this should be interesting. Maurice Richard, who lasted from 1921 to 2000. The Rocket spent his entire life in Montreal, the oldest of 8 children. Richard grew up in a rough city neighborhood and started playing street hockey at age 4. He trained to be a machinist, like his dad, but his life was always hockey. At 21, he joined the Canadiens, becoming the first hockey player to ever score 50 goals in 50 games. He retired after 18 years with the team, 8 championship titles, and an NHL scoring record. When he died at age 78, 115,000 people repaid their respects at the Canadiens arena. Rick Richard, Mr. Hockey grew up poor. He was raised in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, the 5th of 9 children. Howe got his first pair of used skates at age 5. By age 15, he invited to professional training camps. At 17, he joined the minor league team. And at 18, he was playing for the Red Wings. During a game in 1950, Howe fractured his skull. Doctors thought he wouldn't survive. The very next season, he was the league's top scorer. At 43, Howe retired with record 4 goals, assists, and total points, but he came back to play alongside his sons, ending his career in the NHL's oldest Hartford Whalers at age 52, one of the oldest athletes to ever play a major league sport. Now, this picture I'm about to show you is Maurice Richard on the right, shaking hands with Gordie Howe. You can obviously tell who's who. Chapter 7, more teams, more excitement. Original 6 era is done, we get into the expansion era now. Hockey sticks were curved, goalies were masked, substitutions were frequent. In the 1967-68 season, the NHL swelled up to 12 teams, adding the Los Angeles Kings, Pittsburgh Penguins, and others, 6 in all, known as the expansion. By then, the game has changed. Even so, the Boston Bruins still weren't winning championships. The team went 8 straight years without making the playoffs. Then in 1968, they were knocked out in the first round. They reached the second round the next year and lost. But in the 1970 semifinals, they saw the Blackhawks, silencing Bobby Hull. The left winger said to have a 119 mile per hour slap shot. One player that made the difference was hockey great Bobby Orr, the only defender to ever win a scoring title. The Bruins began the finals with a likely sweep too, and a near blowout wins against first 3 games. But in Game 4, the St. Louis Blues marched them goal for goal. At the end of the regulation, it was 3-3. Now here, as you can see, we have a Pittsburgh Penguins goaltender right there. I hate that jersey, but I'm gonna get it. We got Bobby Orr right there. Of course, an NHL legend. Seconds into overtime, Orr skated to the net, ready for a return pass. He got his puck and gave in a tap. Just then, a defender knocked him high into the air, but Orr knew he already scored. In mid-flight, he spread his arms in victory, shouting and smiling. It was an image of hockey triumph, captured forever in a photo seen around the world. That season, Orr won 4 individual trophies, including playoff most valuable player (MVP). However, he insisted the Stanley Cup is the only trophy I ever wanted. Now here we got Bobby Orr, the famous jump, or the famous leap, or the famous fall, or however you want to call it. The next season, the Bruins finished first in the league. No surprise there. People expected the team to go all the way. In the very first round of the playoffs, the Bruins met the Canadiens. Montreal had an untested goalie, Ken Dryden. He only played 16 regular season games, but he helped knock out Boston out of the running and would wound up guarding the Montreal net for 20 games of postseason all the way to the last game of the finals. The Canadiens took the cup, and Dryden took MVP honors. The Bruins were down but came back. They won a cup again in 1972, and in 1974 they were back in the finals. This time they faced my team, the Philadelphia Flyers. The Flyers players had nicknames like Moose the Hammer. The owner had Moose and the Hammer. The owner had signed the toughest, hard-hitting players he could get. Their star player, Bobby Clarke, was considered to be a dirty player. I personally don't think he was a dirty player. I think he was a very good player, but he played dirty at times. Was hated by most every opponent. The Flyers won by skill and fear, called the Broad Street Bullies, because of the team's arena address. They skated and fought their way to victory against the Bruins and to the finals next year too. The Flyers won their first 2 games against the Buffalo Sabres, but now we're on the Sabres' home ice. Buffalo having a warm and unusual weather for upstate New York. Before we talk about the fog, we have a picture of Ken Dryden here. And we also have a picture of Dave the Hammer Schultz. Very good, hard-hitting player. He's a huge game. The game would be unusual, too. It began with a bat swooping close into the ice, startling the players. Then things got stranger still. By the third period, the temperature in the arena had reached 90 degrees. The ice and heat had mixed. A thick fog formed, floating over the rink, making it hard to see the puck. Referees stopped the game 12 times. Players skated in small circles, trying to break up the fog. Arenas broke away sheets. Nothing worked. Regulation ended in a 4-4 tie. In overtime, Sabre Reed Robert fired a shot at net through the fog. Goaltender Bernie Perron zeroed on puck a second too late. The Sabres had scored and won the game. Here are all the players playing in the fog. You got Clark, you got Barber. I think that might be Ed Belfort. I mean, not Ed Belfort. Ed Van Eyck in the back. And then you got, that must be the French Connection in the front. So there you go. The celebration didn't last long. The Flyers took the next 2 games along with the Cup. The Canadiens won the next 3 trophies. Then in spring 1979, they faced the Bruins in the semifinals. The series came down to the 7th game. With less than 3 minutes left in regulation, Boston was ahead 4-3. All game long, Bruins defender Don Marcotte shadowed Guy Lafleur, who was the Canadiens' biggest threat. Now, with Lafleur skated to the bench for a breather, Marcotte went out too. Seconds later, Marcotte explained, "Oh no, Lafleur was back on the ice." Immediately, Bruins players jumped to take Marcotte's place. Too many, yelled the Montreal coach. Boston had too many players on the ice. The ref called a penalty, probably the most important penalty in hockey history. I doubt it. In hockey history. Now Boston had to play 1 man down. With a little over a minute left, Lafleur scored with a slap shot about 40 feet from the net. Montreal wound up winning the game in overtime, then the series, and the finals for the 4th championship in a row. The 1970s closed with a dynasty, and the next decade would bring 2 more. We got Guy Lafleur. That's Guy Lafleur in a Bruins jersey, really? Now we have, this is too many players getting over the ice. Like, you got like 3 players getting on the ice, 2 players getting off. Of course, they're going to call too many on the ice. And now we move on to the final chapter of today's segment. two dynasties from 1980 to 1990. By the end of the 1970s, most players wore helmets. There were 21 teams in the league. Some were really good teams, such as the Canadiens and the Bruins, and now the New York Islanders. But the Islanders were known as playoff chokers. They never made it to the final round. All that changed in 1980. Players like Brian Trottier, Mike Bossy, Dennis Potvin began to win big. The team won 19 playoff series in a row, along with 4 straight cups in 1983. They swept the Edmonton Oilers for the trophy. The Oilers were shocked by the loss. Yeah, they knew the Islanders had experience, but the Oilers had energy and youth. They thought that no one could defeat them. That's like every team. That's like even Detroit. Like, no one can defeat us. They placed last in the NHL. thought no one could defeat them. They had the strongest offensive line in the NHL, led by the great one, Wayne Gretzky. But in those games against the Islanders, Gretzky stayed scoreless. Now this picture is Brian Trottier of the New York Islanders right there. Now, Wayne Gretzky, from January 26, 1961, is, of course, still alive, playing NHL 20 with Alex Ovechkin today. Considered by many to be the greatest hockey player of all time, Wayne Gretzky, the oldest of 5 children, practiced for hours on the rink with his dad in their Brantford, Ontario backyard. By age 6, he was playing organized hockey with 10-year-olds, and by age 10, he was a local celebrity. I wish I was a local celebrity. I kind of am, actually. I'm pretty popular at school. Not really. That's a huge lie. By age 6, he was playing organized hockey with 10-year-olds. By age 10, he was a local celebrity. He signed with the Edmonton Oilers in 1978 and was traded to the Los Angeles Kings in 1988. Devastating Edmonton. He was the NHL's top scorer every year from 1981 to 1985, and again 1986 and 1987. He was the league's MVP 9 times out of 10 from 1980 to 1989, breaking every offensive major record along the way. Gretzky ended his NHL career with the Rangers in 1999. Now I gotta skip here over all these photos that we reviewed in the first segment, but we're not in the first segment anymore, we're in the third one. After the game, Gretzky and his teammates Kevin Lau walked past the Islanders' locker room. The men sat quietly, holding ice packs for their injuries. The winners were too tired to celebrate. Lau told Gretzky, "That's why they won and we didn't. They gave it all they had." Now you can see them all with their ice packs, giving it all they had. The next year, the Oilers made it to the finals, only to face the Islanders again. This time, they gave it all they had and won. In 1985, the Oilers took home the trophy again, and in 1986, they were on track for a three-peat. But in the second round of the playoffs against Calgary Flames, the series stretched to 7 games. The deciding game on April 30th, Oilers defender Steve Smith's birthday. With about 15 minutes left in the game, the score was tied 2-2. But before we do that, we're going to talk about this one section here. It's players of color. It has Grant Fuhr and Will O'Ree. In 1984, Grant Fuhr became the first player of the color to win a Stanley Cup, the first ever black player. Willie O'Ree has debuted in Boston Bruins back in 1958, but diversity has come slowly. Almost 18 years passed before another black athlete joined the league. In the recent 93% of the players have been white. The NHL is looking to increase inclusion with its Hockey is for Everyone campaign. Now here, before we move on, we have Steve Smith, and we have Will O'Ree and Grant Fuhr. Oiler goalie Grant Fuhr had the puck. He left behind the net for Smith. Smith quickly retrieved the puck and tried to make a pass, but Fuhr was skating back to goal. The puck hit his skate and slid into the net. It was an own goal for the Oilers. Upset beyond words, Smith fell to the ice. Calgary won 3-2, and the Oilers were out of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Now, I personally think I've said this before. I said this in the Calgary Flames Edmonton Oilers rivalry analyzation. You can go take a look at that. It's not too many videos behind. If not, just go to the Edmonton Oilers or Flames or rivalries playlist and just find it. So, I talked about it. I said, yeah, if Steve Smith did not score that own goal for the Oilers would have been the second team to win 5 cups in a row. That's what I thought. Nobody was stopping Edmonton that year, but Steve Smith did. Gretzky and his teammates never blamed Smith. They felt he was just one play in the game. The next year, the Oilers rebounded for the 3rd cup. When Gretzky was team captain, they accepted the trophy as he passed it right on to Smith. Edmonton won again in 1988. This time, Gretzky gathered around the Oilers. Gretzky wanted to treasure this moment. He knew it was his last game with the Oilers. So right here we have Steve Smith like crying, and then we have Gretzky holding up the cup. And let me struggle to turn the page here. Gretzky was traded to the Los Angeles Kings 1988-89 season, but the Oilers still won the 1999 trophy. Credit should go to the hero of Game 1 of the Finals against Boston. The match stretched to 3 overtimes. Before Peter Klima had barely played. He'd been benched for almost 3 hours. Until now, about 1:30 a.m., fresh off the bench, he led a breakaway to the net. Quickly, he aimed the puck between the goalie's legs and scored, and the Oilers started a series with a win. Klima was from Czechoslovakia. Now, this is a pretty interesting story here because it was under control of the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union would not leave. This was a story with Alexander Mogilny. It's a story on one of the podcasts I watch, and I gotta talk about it at some point on the channel because it is a pretty interesting story. Which at the time was under control of the Soviet Union. 5 years earlier, he'd sneak out of a hotel in West Germany during a hockey tournament, met a Red Wings staff member in the woods, then sped away in the dark night to start his escape. Klima had defected. He'd left his homeland. As for Gretzky, he watched the Oilers-Bruins game at home. I would have liked to see my team lifting the cup, he said, but these guys were my second choice. Now, we do have a little section here talking about the Soviet Union because, it just has to have it in here. It's part of the what is, who is series and all that stuff. After World War I, Russia joined the other countries to form the Soviet Union, a communist country ruled by the one political party. The government owned most businesses, and citizens had few rights. The Soviet gained control of the neighboring countries too, like Czechoslovakia and Poland. At the end of World War II, the Iron Curtain dropped, a term described as guarded border separating the Soviet bloc and the rest of Europe, stopping people from leaving in 1991. The Soviet Union collapsed. And that is it for this segment of what is the Stanley Cup. Tomorrow we will finish up what is the Stanley Cup book, and then we're not going to have any reading segments until Friday. We'll start reading the Gordie Howe book, or depending on who gets more votes by then, but it's projected to be Gordie Howe. So yeah, if you guys did enjoy that segment, please do drop a like and hit that subscribe button. Trying to get to 115 by June 1st. Hope this gives you a lot of knowledge, and hope this puts you to bed, but I don't think Nordic 97 is going to put you to bed. So thank you guys for watching. Join the Discord server, and I will see you guys in the next one.